Because then you're looking at what song you like and you're making a case and you don't know.
Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So let's start with Jeremiah 50, verse 16. Rather 14. Take up your positions against Babylon, all you who draw the bow. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she has sinned against the Lord. Now it's talking about the divine arrows of God. You can Google it yourself and see scriptures where the Lord's wrath is being compared to arrows. So it's the angels working the angles on them, firing the arrows at them. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she has sinned against the Lord. Shout against her on every side. She surrenders, her towers fall, her walls are torn down. Since this is the vengeance of the Lord, take vengeance on her. Do to her as she has done to others. Key part, as she has done to others. So as they screened out the righteous, okay, so the righteous and their children cannot inherit the earth, they are being screened out of heaven. They're being screened out of the essence, because what the earth matters to the righteous, what the righteous care about the earth, right? The reason why the righteous care about the earth is because there was the essence of righteousness there while they're there. But when the righteous leave, there's nothing on the earth anymore. So it's saying to cut them off from righteousness, the source of righteousness. And as the righteous are gone, the source of righteousness, okay, and righteousness is only found in heaven with God. Israel is a scattered flock that lions have chased away. The first to devour them was the king of Assyria. The last to crush their bones was Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Therefore, this is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. I will punish the king of Babylon and his land as I punished the king of Assyria. But I will bring Israel back to their own pasture, and they will graze on Carmel and Bashan. Their appetite will be satisfied on the hills of Ephraim and Gilead. Now what it's saying is the people who replace, the Jews, right, when the kingdom of heaven is taken away from them and given to a people that will perform its fruits, because you have to couple this with the New Testament. It's saying that the people that replace them, there'll only be a small amount of them, and that they will go to the promised land, which is now with God, right? We say in Galatians 4, right? Jerusalem in this world is gone in sin. Jerusalem with God is the one that is the mother of the righteous. Okay. In those days at that time, declares the Lord, search will be made for Israel's guilt, but there will be none, and for the sins of Judah, but none will be found, for I will forgive the remnant I spare. Now, how can God forgive unrepentant sinners? Right? In theory it can be done, but God doesn't do that. God is known by his acts of justice. He's exalted by his acts of justice. Core scripture. Those scriptures are core in Psalm and Isaiah. God is known by his acts of justice. He's exalted by his acts of justice. He's exalted by his righteous acts. So he has to punish the inhabitants of the earth, because that's consistent with his nature. Who God is someone who punishes the wicked and rewards the righteous. And he tests the righteous, right? Life is like an obstacle course. So what it's saying is, when the righteous return to God, there will be no guilt. But in this world, after my flesh dies, there will only be guilt. People in this world will not be forgiven. The people in the new heaven and the new earth will be forgiven. That is the appropriate scale. That is the fair scale. That is the fair, just, and right way to do things. Attack the land of Merathaim and those who live in Pekah. Pursue, kill, and completely destroy. Completely give them over, which often means completely destroy, right? So if they're not completely given over to God, then they're completely destroyed. The body without the spirit is dead. It's empty. It's like in the realm of the dead. And so when the righteous are not on this planet, it is completely given over to the realm of the dead, and the righteous are given over to God. And God is trampling them, right? They're given over to the punishment of God, which is being in the realm of the dead. So God is, victorious. How do I know this? For many reasons. One, I'm the top martial artist ever possible. I understand justice more than anybody that ever lived. Number two, is you have to work the angles because it has to make sense. It has to be just. Okay? For example, when it comes to the miracles, why would you believe miracles that you weren't there to witness? Why would they have more of a chance to go to heaven than you do? Right? You have to make it make sense. Well, one reason is that people have been building down over time. Okay. But there's more to it than that. The argument made in the Bible specifically, okay, is that these miracles, which are figurative, by the way, happen to have occurred and they happen to be proof. And they're recorded to prove it to other people. Now, they wouldn't prove anything if these miracles were literal. But if these miracles were figurative, it would prove it because it would be a formula for you to understand the message of God and the miracles of God and how they actually occur. So the miracles must be figurative or else they wouldn't be proving anything. It's that simple. That's the way, that's the truth, that's the life. So when we look at how this story ends, it has to make sense when we interpret it. It has to be moral. It has to be something that the wise man interprets and comes to the conclusion that it's a moral finish. Therefore, the world goes down to the realm of the dead because that's what's fair and just and right. That's the moral ending. People don't get to screen out the righteous and magically inherit a righteous planet. That's insane. That's not fair. When you remove the righteous people, you remove the spirit of righteousness as well, and the world becomes the realm of the dead. Just like when you have a garden, you need to water it. It needs sunlight. It needs the proper soil. You remove the weeds, what have you. If there's only weeds that remain, that garden is no longer the garden of the Lord. The vineyard of the Lord is the nation of the righteous, those who are purely righteous. It's not the nation of this race or that race. It's the nation of the righteous. One group of people doesn't get to do whatever they want. It's written there in the Old Testament. It's there in, I believe it's in Exodus, but it's certainly in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, where it says that if they don't keep the covenant, then God will destroy them, and that goes for all that it may apply to. So anyone who does not do the work of God, who does not keep the 10 Commandments, okay, when we're talking about the Israelites, for example, anyone who does not keep the essence of the law, when we're talking about everybody, right, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, okay, that in the story, that they're cut off from God. In reality, it's anybody who doesn't keep the essence of the law and the golden rule. They're cut off from God. So in the story, the Israelites have to keep the 10 Commandments, right? They have to honor the Sabbath and da-da-da-da-da. But you don't necessarily have to honor the Sabbath. You have to do what is right every single day, every single time. You have to walk with God. See, what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to walk humbly with your Lord. I believe that's what it says in Malachi. I was supposed to bring that scripture. I think I probably did in my car. Say that's what God requires, for them to act justly and to walk humbly with God. And when they don't do that, they go to hell. Righteousness and justice is the way, it's the path. Okay. So now we go to verse 22. The noise of battle is in the land, the noise of great destruction. How broken and shattered is the hammer of the whole earth. How desolate is Babylon among the nations. I set a trap for you, Babylon, and you were caught before you knew it. You were found and captured because you opposed the Lord. So what was Babylon referred to as? Babylon was referred to as the hammer of the whole earth. The hammer of the earth. Okay, the Lord is a warrior, right? The Gaia, right, G, the earth deity, is not God. And God trampled the earth deity, which is the idea of somebody trying to be a warrior without the moral spirit of God. So the hammer of the world is destroyed. The hammer of Babylon that took over the world is destroyed, and the people are cut off from God after my flesh dies. That's what it's saying. That's how the Bible ends. He goes on to say, right, that I set a trap for you, Babylon, and you were caught before you knew it. You were found and captured because you opposed the Lord. So what was the trap? The trap was for people to be tempted to oppose the Lord. The throne is established in righteousness, the one God set apart, Psalm 2, John 10. I'm the one God set apart with righteousness and justice, with moral might. The root and offspring of David, David versus Goliath, the top martial artist ever possible. So the trap was to cheat me out of my right to lead. They fell into the trap, right? Even the word cheat is a play on words for he, cat, and see, he, at, and see, heat. And C-H, eat, right? And they poisoned me and they fueled me. And they came into the spirit of cheating me out of my right to lead while I'm being sabotaged, fumed, and poisoned. So they fell into the trap that was set for Babylon as they chose Babylon's path and formation in their respective nations and groupings. And so all the nations are shattered. See, how broken and shattered is the hammer of the whole earth? Well, if God is a warrior and you have to have a warrior spirit to be in God's spirit, right? The armor of God, what have you. Then when your hammer is shattered, when your sword is shattered, then your spirit is through, then you're damned to hell. So when Babylon's hammer was shattered, the spirit of the world was shattered. Their opportunity to go to heaven was removed. Their chances were, diminished. They were reduced to nothing. So it says, how broken and shattered is the hammer of the whole earth. How desolate is Babylon among the nations. I set a trap for you, Babylon, and you were caught before you knew it. You were found and captured because you opposed the Lord. The Lord has opened his arsenal and brought out the weapons of his wrath, for the sovereign Lord Almighty has work to do in the land of the Babylonians. So God waging spiritual war against the global system, Babylon's system. Baal's Greek counterpart is Zeus. Baal's Egyptian counterpart is Set. Baal's Roman counterpart is Jupiter. So as they chose idolatry, as they came into the world system that's structured a certain way, by their fruits, by their mentality, by their actions, right? Government, ment meaning mind, like the word mentality or mental or mentation. The Lord has opened his arsenal, right? What is his arsenal? The spirit of righteousness, the spirit of justice. When love comes into contact with wickedness, it destroys it. Just because people continue as the walking dead doesn't mean that their soul is not being destroyed. It is. Doesn't mean that their soul is not rotting. It is. Come against her from afar, break open her granaries, pile her up like heaps of grain, completely destroy her and leave her no remnant. Kill all her young bulls, let them go down to the slaughter. Woe to them, for their day has come, the time for them to be punished. Listen to the fugitives and the refugees from Babylon declaring in Zion how the Lord our God has taken vengeance for his temple. Summon archers against Babylon. All those who draw the bow, encamp all around her. Let no one escape. Repay her for her deeds. Do to her as she has done, for she has defied the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. Therefore her young men will fall in the streets. Her soldiers will be silenced on that day, declares the Lord. See, I am against you, you arrogant one, declares the Lord Almighty, for your day has come, the time for you to be punished. The arrogant one will stumble and fall, and no one will help her up. I will kindle a fire in her towns that will consume all who are around her. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will kindle a fire in her towns. That's what he said, right? Kindle a fire in her towns that will consume all around her. Again, it says, this is what the Lord Almighty says. The people of Israel are oppressed, and the people of Judah as well. All their captors hold them fast, refusing to let them go. Remember, this is a formula. As they're oppressing me, that's part of the problem. And those who cheat me out of my right to lead aren't the true people of God. Yet their Redeemer is strong. The Lord Almighty is his name. He will vigorously defend their cause so that he may bring rest to their land, but unrest to those who live in Babylon. God will vigorously defend my cause and will bring unrest to the inhabitants of the earth for cheating me out of my right to lead, for poisoning me, for fuming me, what have you. A sword against the Babylonians, declares the Lord, against those who live in Babylon and against her officials and wise men. A sword against her false prophets. They will become fools. A sword against her warriors. They will be filled with terror that rots their soul. A sword against her horses and chariots and all the foreigners in her ranks. They will become weaklings, right? Spiritual weaklings. A sword against her treasures. They will be plundered. A drought on or a sword against her waters. They will dry up, right? They won't have the water of God, the water of life, the water of well-being, the water of righteousness. The water in Revelation 17 that stands for the people, the nations, the multitudes, and languages. They will be destroyed. Their peoples, their nations, their multitudes, their languages, their ability to spiritually communicate will be destroyed. says, for it is a land of idols, idols that will go mad with terror. So why do they go mad? Why do they go crazy, right? Crazy has different forms. Everybody on this planet, except for me, is like crazy. They're just expressing it differently. There's a spectrum and there's variations. They're idols that don't live in reality, so they go crazy. The absence of reality, the absence of living in reality makes people go crazy. And without morality, there is no reality. Morality is a play on words for more reality. To live in reality, you have to be moral. So they go mad with terror. They're afraid to live in reality. So desert creatures and hyenas will live there, and there the owl will dwell. It will never again be inhabited or lived in from generation to generation. As I overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, along with their neighboring towns, declares the Lord, right? Spiritually overthrown. So no one will live there. No people will dwell in it. Look, an army is coming from the north, a great nation, and many kings are being stirred up from the ends of the earth. They are armed with bows and spears. They are cruel and without mercy. They sound like the roaring sea as they ride on their horses. They come like men in battle formation to attack you, daughter Babylon. Now, who's attacking them? They're attacking themselves, right? Babylon's system is the whole world. It's like in the book of Judges, right? They're waging war against each other, and they're bashing each other, and they're destroying each other, and they're reaping, those who go after ill-gotten gain, they end up in the realm of the dead. They're reaping what they sow. They sowed wickedness. They sowed injustice. They sowed rape by deception. They sowed falsehood. So now they are reaping what they sow. They are reaping what they have sown. The Bible says God will not be mocked. You reap what you sow. They have relied on deceit, and they reap what they sow. They have relied on wickedness, and they reap what they sow. They have relied on the broad path to destruction. They have sown wickedness and evil. They have sown deception in every aspect of their lives, their marriages, their churches, their nations. They will reap what they sow. Justice will have its fair share. Justice will have its day. Righteousness will have its day. They will reap what they sow. God will not be mocked. He will not be lied about. They will reap what they sow. Their refusal to do what is just and good will cause them to reap what they sow. Their inability to see what is fair and just and right is part of what they've sown, what their forefathers have sown. And as they follow the footsteps of their forefathers, they will reap what they sow. They're following the footsteps of them. They're in their formations, and destiny takes care of the rest until the world is sealed off from heaven. The 7 seals, the 7 deadly sins, the 7 abominations that fill their hearts. They will reap what they sow.